Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show. Happy Friday. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Happy to be here. Forgive me, yesterday I had some running around and things I had to take care of for work, so I was not able to do the show, but I am here behind the What's Right microphone again today, Friday, and next week I will be back stateside in studio. So undistracted by my travel. Now I overnight, because a little bit of a time difference here, I always will catch up on the news as I'm waking up and begin preparing for the program during the course of the day. And the news cycle is just off a little bit. So what'll happen invariably is a bunch of things occur while I'm asleep. Just the nature of it. So, of course, this morning I woke up absolutely delighted over what was happening out in California, and I'll get to it in some depth here this hour. Of course, I'm talking about the immigration raids, the ICE raids on a marijuana farm, among other targets in the greater LA area. The liberals there, from Gavin Newsom on down, absolutely losing their minds. And the reason they are losing their minds is not what meets the eye. It is not their proffered reason for why they are upset. They are thinking of the same thing that I'm thinking, and maybe you're thinking the same thing here too. So let's just come out and say it. I'm thinking of Florida. I'm thinking of 2018. I'm thinking of Governor Ron DeSantis. You're probably looking at me now, maybe, Sam, you're starting to lose it here. You need some more sleep. Now, bear with me. Go back to Florida before 2018. Every person who was politically astute would contend that Florida was turning purple. Every pundit, every political pontificator, every politico was out there talking about how Florida demographically had changed, had evolved from a deep red state to a light red state to now a state that was very much in play for Democrats. Now, two things about this, right? Just sort of big picture. The Republican response to this under, let's say under the leadership of Jeb Bush, was to cater to Democrats and try to soften conservatism. And it was a losing strategy. This is a strategy employed by a series of Republican, governors in California over the years. I witnessed this as a kid growing up, and culminated, of course, in Arnold Schwarzenegger's very disappointing governorship, where he capitulated to the Democrats and gave up the state for good. But I'm digressing here. I just want to get back to that idea of what Florida was before DeSantis won. DeSantis won. He won in 2018, and I wrote this down here so I would have it correctly, presented correctly to you. It was 0.4% of the vote. Out of a total of approximately 8 million votes, DeSantis eked out a victory by 32,000 votes. Now, in 22, when he ran for re-election, it was a landslide. He won by 19%, which is a margin of approximately 1.5 million votes. So, I mean, was Andrew Gillum that popular? Was Charlie Crist in 22 that unpopular? I mean, I happen to think, I reasonably believe that Gillum, this was, of course, before we found him passed out in a hotel room with a hooker, and evidence of drug use, was a fairly popular politician in Florida, and Charlie Crist as well, arguably longtime senator there, former Republican, and someone who, quote unquote, occupied the political middle. Now he got trounced. And I'm thinking now about today, but I want to go back to this because a lot of Republicans here are getting the vapors, are getting concerned that Trump is going too far with his Gestapo-like tactics. And I see it playing out. I've gotten some emails and I'm responding to them here as quickly as I can. But, you know, a lot of you out there, I'm just letting you know, you're concerned that Trump is going a little too far on this immigration thing. And I'm telling you that the number one thing that Trump is thinking about right now is the Florida miracle. Because DeSantis went from a barely there victory of 0.4% to a 19% landslide because of voter ID, limits on ballot drop boxes, cleaning up the voter rolls, and then, of course, a very high-profile push against illegal immigration. And he did it. He cleaned up the fundamentals, the basics of elections in Florida. And all of a sudden, voila, the Democrats' ascendancy, their growth, their whatever that were, conventional, again, people were saying at the time, look at Florida, look at Florida. I mean, it's going to be the next blue state. And at this point, because of the number of electoral votes that Florida has, there are people already predicting that another Republican president it would be impossible basically to elect another Republican to the White House just based on the number of electoral votes in states like California, New York, and then adding to it a solid lock in Florida. Now, DeSantis thwarted this, and I'm convinced that every person with a brain inside of the Trump administration, and there are many, are looking at the Florida miracle as an instructive example of what they can achieve in spite of opposition from California Democrats in California. And this is why, folks, I'm telling you, Trump is not going to give up on California. Remember, Trump campaigned there. He went there and he did it, and he got votes. It probably put him over the edge, I think, electorally, in the popular vote. And there's a play there, but I am certain that every person that Trump talks to, every Republican that Trump talks to from California, they tell him the same thing. There are people here in the state, in California, that are common sense, that are reasonable, and while there may be a large number of registered Democrats, there is a possibility in the state of California to begin turning things around and at least pick up congressional seats in places like Orange County and the Central Valley that are historically far more conservative, far more red than cities like LA. But this enforcement action that we witnessed in the last 24 hours in Camarillo, this is the kind of thing that I think will go a long way. Let me explain why. So, by the way, what basically happened is ICE went in with DHS, with Black Hawk helicopters, the full Monty, and they dropped in on a weed farm, okay, marijuana. I'm presuming that fundamentally the operation itself was legal, right? They were growing marijuana within, within the restrictions in California. So they were doing that part of it legally. But the more troubling part about this all was there were a lot of kids on the farm. And what started out as a massive gotcha where literally Gavin Newsom, who is looking more and more stupid by the second, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, starts tweeting out video from the raid showing kids getting tear gassed. And people are just asking on the internet, on Twitter, Governor, what the hell are kids doing in the middle of a field in the middle of the day? I understand that school is out, but this is a little sus, which is, of course, slang for suspicious. And the comebacks, there is simply no good comeback. There simply is no good answer for this. What is it, childcare? And slowly but surely, it's becoming obvious what we've got here. The way $20 an hour minimum wage in California works is very simple. It doesn't. And the great lie told by the Democratic Party is, oh, yeah, we care about the living wages of people. Yeah, of course. At the same time, they declare the state a sanctuary state. They declare California a place where the government protects illegal immigrants. But those illegal immigrants, of course, still have to work in the shadows. Those illegal immigrants can be exploited. Those illegal immigrants don't even have to be of age to work. Think about the kids that disappeared at the Biden border in the last 4 years. Well, some of them just turned up. They're probably working some marijuana fields out in California. But the point being that the entire premise of the Democratic Party is a fundamental lie. They don't care about the workers. They don't care about actually bringing a livable wage to people. The only way that this all actually works is by having people, laboring out there, with well below minimum wage, getting paid under the table, child labor potentially even. And now they got caught in broad daylight on camera. And the fits and the screams and the shouts that you're hearing from the Democrats are the last little throes of anguish over the powerlessness that they find themselves in politically as Trump is going in and destroying their entire political base of operation. It is a beautiful thing to behold. And I'll take you through this here step by step, but I'm telling you, Trump is looking at Florida. He's looking at 2018, what happened between 2018 and 2022. And he's going, look, I can't put a Republican governor in there, obviously, but I certainly can fix up some of the things that was fixed up by DeSantis in Florida, and I can do that. Like immigration. And of course, the big push to get voter ID on the ballot. If voter ID goes on the ballot in California, I believe it will pass. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam & Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT. Sam at whatsrightshow.com is my email. Email me with your comments, concerns, complaints, all of it. I do read my email personally. It goes just to me, and I try to get back to as many of you as I can. I do read everything, and I respond if I'm able, and I'm catching up on it. I promise. All right. Well, on X, you can also find me on Twitter at What's Right Sam, at What's Right Sam. All right. So the raid in Camarillo, California, whereas this is Ventura County, north of LA. It's a coastal community, a lot of farmland, really beautiful area. And this was yesterday, Thursday, taken footage here from an ABC-7 helicopter. And the commentary just kills me here. You keep talking about a farm. It's a marijuana farm. Okay, it's relevant. I'll get to this in a moment. But here's the video footage from the news chopper with the voiceover here from the pilot reporter who is above the area here describing the scene.
Protesters who have showed up to vehemently protest what's going on here. And just in the last few minutes, Customs and Border Patrol helicopter has entered the scene here. They are landing in the middle of the farm as we speak. It does appear that they were not planning to be here as long as they have been. And so this helicopter that you're looking at here, guys, apparently just made a run over to Van Nuys Airport for some cases of water, which is what they're bringing into the scene here. So there are a whole team of ICE agents at the farm. There are other agents down there as well as the National Guard police standing guard and protecting Laguna Road as this enforcement action takes place right here, going into hour number 4 this afternoon. Again, a major situation transpiring here in Camarillo, and it does not appear that they were intending to stay this long.
One of the reasons, of course, that the officers were not intending to stay as long as they did was because a number of protesters showed up, began causing chaos. Even shots were fired at one point at officers, but we'll get to that in a minute. So there's this chaotic scene because, of course, whenever the ICE people show up, the Democrats send out their goons to try to make a scene. And I want to point something out in all this. Just a small aside. Have you noticed that the ICE officers are really not taking the bait? I watch these videos. I watch almost, I think, maybe every video that is out there in circulation of confrontation between ICE, Border Patrol, DHS, whoever it is, and these protesters, these libtard idiots out there who are throwing themselves in front of their cars and buses and vans and whatnot. And I'm just amazed. I watch the videos and I'm going in my head. I'm seeing what I'm seeing on the screen, and I'm not yelling it, but I'm thinking in my head, like, pull out your baton and just whack this guy. Like, what are you doing? But they're not. They're showing restraint. They're showing patience. I think the Democrat playbook is to get on video ICE acting thuggish and getting public, the public to turn on them. But that said, still immigration, enforcement remains very popular. So that's an aside. Now, this conflagration there. Here is a KTLA camera grab. This is just general commotion. It's I don't think we can really make out any words, but just to give you an idea of the chaos. And those of you watching the Sam Cam, which of course you can have on Spotify or on YouTube, you'll see the video itself. So here we go. Okay, wait. Let's pan back. Hold on. Pan back. Hold on. I'm going to pan back here. Hold on a second.
Don't panic. Do not run.
Okay, watch it. Stop that. Look at their kids running through the field. Where the hell did these kids come from? See that? Right here. Right there. Well, the tag here, the viewer footage that has been sent, that's being aired on KTLA says children protesters running from tear gas during immigration raids.
They took your mom?
They took your mom. Ah! Well, okay, let me ask a stupid question. Let's see. I understand that school is not in session. It's July. I also understand that maybe, okay, I'm trying to play the other, it's my lawyer, brain working. Maybe there's a child care issue, right? Maybe these people have children that need to be somewhere during the day. Now, if they're on a large farm, presumably there's a place for these kids to be, right? I mean, I don't know. Or there's a relative, or there's a friend. Do you, if you work on a farm, if you're picking marijuana, tilling the fields, whatever it is, okay, you're out there, are you taking your kids really to work? Or are these kids working there? And the thing that pisses me off about this, like in an extreme way, is that I remember when I was younger, I tried to work in California, part-time. It is hard. It's very difficult. You have to jump through all sorts of hoops to get employed as a teen in California. And it's almost designed to really make, like, the employers don't like to do it. Like, if you go to a store and try to get hired as a teen, they don't even like to hire you because It's a problem for them. But teenagers who ought to get summer jobs or ought to have part-time jobs once they're in high school and maybe have a little bit of free time, the state of California makes it nearly impossible. And yet, if you're an illegal immigrant, you've got your kids there or some kids that you found somewhere wandering unattended across the border, or maybe that got trafficked across the border, those kids apparently can work just fine. And when they get caught, Gavin Newsom and KTLA and Fox and everybody comes out to support them. Wild. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840. Be right back. Don't go anywhere, folks. More of the What's Right show up next. Checklets. Newsom, the governor of California, tweeted out just hours ago, kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the fields. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. here on News Talk 840 KXNT. So, this is a problem. This tweet is going to haunt Governor Newsom well into his fight to become the next president of the United States. And I'll tell you why. We now have confirmation that 10 juveniles were found at this marijuana facility, all of them illegal aliens. 8 of them were unaccompanied. I bring that up because that's the revelation. You know, I tried to be charitable here. Let the record reflect, Robbie. I offered a potential explanation here that perhaps these kids were somewhere on the grounds of the farm because, child, care and all that stuff. And no, they were unaccompanied. Their parents literally weren't there. They're just minors working in a field. If you are a Democrat and you're supporting this, do you understand how legitimately messed up you are? This is everything that you purport to be against. And frankly, we as a country have moved on from the idea that we have 12-year-olds laboring in the sun, picking weed so some hipster Democrat doofus can smoke his joint and then go vote in the polls for more Democrats is, to me, somewhat ridiculous. Federal agents conducted a massive operation into Camarillo marijuana farm. We then have a bunch of politicians push a false narrative that these are food workers. By the way, where was it here? I have it in my stack, the tweet. Representative Jimmy Gomez. This is a U.S. representative. Where is he from? What district is Mr. Gomez from? Well, he is from L.A. He serves on the Ways and Means Committee and the House Intel Committee. Mr. Gomez is a Democrat. He's part of the Renters Caucus. Woo! Anyway, well, the honorable congressman here wrote, quote, how many MS-13 gang members are waking up at 3 a.m. to pick strawberries? Oh, yeah, 0. Trump said he'd go after, quote unquote, bad hombres, but he's targeting the immigrant farm workers who feed America. Either he lied or he can't tell the difference. Okay. Well, problem with this is, of course, this wasn't a strawberry field for Pete's sake. I mean, it was a weed farm. And in every mainstream media source on this that I've heard, I keep seeing that it was a farm, a farm, a farm. You don't hate the media enough. Trust me, folks, you don't. It is so beyond the pale. So anyway, so I'm pointing this out that they're trying to push this narrative. Even this, look, there's a breaking news here. ICE just swarmed Ventura County fields, hauling away the very farm workers who keep America's produce aisles stocked. Marijuana farm for the umpteenth time. So guess what? These 10 minors, these illegal immigrants that were found, this is terrible, by the way. How did they get in the country? Their parents are nowhere to be found. Can you say human trafficking? People need to go to jail for this. I think we can agree that this is a problem. And CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott responded on X saying that these 10 juveniles were found, all illegal aliens, 8 of them unaccompanied, and it's now under investigation for child labor violations. This is the promise of America. This is California. This is the Democrats' quote unquote shining city on a hill. I don't know how I have no idea how the Democrats brand recovers from what will happen in California in the next 12 months. It's all going to be laid bare. So anyway, the politicians go in after this raid. They push this false narrative. These food workers, these farm workers, this is feeding America, America's breadbasket. Okay, it's all a bunch of weed. It's basically a scene straight out of Narcos. Children are out there crying, Mom, Mom, Mom. No. Actually, they're just working on the field, probably against their will. Protester appears to shoot a gun at agents. That occurred. Well, you want to see it? It's on tape. Here, look at it.
Take a look at this video right here. It appears a protester fired some kind of gun at federal agents. This happened this afternoon. It was a really chaotic scene at the time. A lot of smoke was being launched at the protesters. And again, it appears a protester fired back with that weapon. It looks like he fired at least a couple of times. We have not heard about any agents being hurt.
If there's been a theme of the show this week, it's that I am very concerned about left-wing violence. I'm concerned with people being wound up by the media and, of course, by the Democratic Party that is freaking out over the fact that they are losing their, political grip in the country, recognizing that these cleanup efforts in California, in Oregon, in Washington, in New York are going to be a political liability for the Democrats' ability to win elections. So they're doing what they do. They get everybody juiced up and whipped up into a frenzy. And what's going to happen, of course, is people are going to get hurt. I played for you just the other day, very, clear evidence from a number of elected Democrats, national politicians, all using not even coded language, but basically manifestly violent language to describe what needed to happen in order for them to win. And you look at this, right? I mean, well, Jasmine Crockett, she's the ghetto congresswoman from Texas. Jasmine Crockett went on a kind of left-wing podcast on Wednesday, and she claims that the violence, actually there's no such thing as left-wing violence. The only place that left-wing violence comes from is, well, you guessed it, from MAGA.
The violence doesn't come from Democrats, just to be clear. I mean, obviously anyone can be a criminal, but it is MAGA. It's specifically MAGA faction. Like, I don't think traditional Republicans are getting engaged in all of this, but like, even when we look at, and they don't talk about the assassination attempts anymore that took place with Donald Trump, but these were Trump supporters, right? As well as this most recent situation, they tried to flip it and say, oh, the leftists are, I'm like, this doesn't even make sense, right? But it's only like MAGA that does this.
I mean, she doesn't make sense. That's right. But what? I mean, by the way, several of the Secret Service agents who were there in Butler, Pennsylvania, at the time that Trump was nearly killed, and of course, a person did die that day. They just got suspended because, of course, the whole thing was a mess. And I suspect it's just the first domino to fall in that. We're going to find out. We're going to find out a lot more about it. But I digress. The second guy, Ryan Ruth, I mean, was a dyed-in-the-wool left-wing nut. What is she talking about? These are MAGA violent people. By the way, you saw this Gavin Newsom because he's now been put on blast by everybody over what's going on in California, and he's desperately to try to spin this as Trump overreacting and overreaching via ICE, Gavin Newsom actually keeps turning back to January 6th. And I'm not aware, and I followed the trials, I followed the, obviously very carefully, the January 6th Truth Commission, if you can call it that. I'm not aware of a single Trump supporter that showed up at the Capitol with a gun. Certainly not somebody who shot a gun, discharged a firearm. To my knowledge, the only firearm that was discharged was by a DEI Capitol Hill cop who had a history of bad behavior, who himself probably should have been off the force and certainly not licensed to carry a firearm, who killed Ashley Babbitt, shot her through a door. Ashley Babbitt and everybody else on the other side of that door was unarmed. And he got a presidential pardon from the auto pen. The cop did. So I don't want to hear about January 6th. I'm just so sick and tired. You literally have these Democrat goons shooting guns at federal officers. And the same people, the same Democrats that lectured us over and over again on the rule of law, nobody's above the law, and democracy, and respect the police. All of a sudden, Democrats found respect for the police in the wake of January 6th. But anyway, respect the police. Now are like, well, I mean, things got heated, and of course that's not okay. But wherever they go, they push and push and push the idea that they have to stand up and resist and fight and go to the streets to stop the agenda, the Trump agenda, which, by the way, we voted for and a majority of the country endorsed and continues to endorse as we speak. By the way, incidentally, how popular do you think, we could talk about California a lot, how popular do you think that this policy and what Trump is doing is, how popular do you think it's here in Nevada? That's an interesting thing. I got to take a quick break. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. It's not what you'd think. Be right back. Some of you out there hand-wringing about these immigration raids, worried it's going to actually cost Republicans political points in the midterms, and then, of course, 2028. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I guess it depends on where and with whom. I saw some polls, interactive polls coming out, Morning Consult, Trump net approval, a handful of states. By the way, highest to lowest. Let's see. I'll start with the depressing news. Can't do this with a straight face. Vermont. Yeah. Trump is underwater in Vermont by 29 points. What about Hawaii? Minus 18. Let's get to the meteor states. California, minus 16. New York, minus 11. Let's see. Colorado, Illinois, both 7 and 8, respectively. So I'm looking at this. Well, here's some interesting news. All right. Iowa, Ohio, +2, +8. Florida, +8. Okay. Alaska, +8. Texas, +9. Any surprises here? Well, I have one. Well, Nevada. He's +6 in Nevada, right here in not Las Vegas, the state. Great. I mean, it's just fantastic. So I guess because the American public, and I understand, okay, you've got California, you've still got a lot of lefties there. You've got a lot of lefties in Vermont and Maryland and Massachusetts. All right, I get it. But when you look at a state that was declared to be purple, I know Trump won Nevada, and he won it. I mean, it was a legitimate win, but Again, we were told for many years that this state was probably not going to go to another Republican, that it was a purple state and it was increasingly leaning blue. And now, as Trump's policies are in full swing, and in spite of the hand-wringing of how Trump has handled the, well, let's say the big, beautiful bill and the tax implications that we went over earlier in the week, vis-a-vis gaming, and then some of the back and forth with Canada and perhaps losing some of the international travelers, et cetera, through the tariffs talks. So point being, in Nevada, still +6. I'm telling you, immigration enforcement is popular. Now, one thing, and I had a conversation about this with a friend who lives out in LA. I feel bad for him. He's a very conservative guy. But he lives in LA. He lives in one of the bluest, most liberally idiotic parts of the city. And he tells me that he's had numerous conversations with his liberal friends over there who were months ago very irritated with Mayor Karen Bass, were irritated with Newsom over how the two had been handling the fires, the aftermath. Of course, still nothing getting rebuilt, nothing getting done. It's been 7 months. It's just, the whole thing is terrible. And Newsom and Mayor Bass were, been getting a lot of criticism. But now, because of #immigration and Trump being out there going, in their words, full fascist, they now are starting to side with Newsom. And by the way, the tweet that Newsom put out there, this was, the time where he pulled out January 6th. He liked it. He said, of course I condemn the protester shooting at the ICE agents. Of course I now do January 6th. And it was a response to libs of TikTok. Now, setting aside he called libs of TikTok an SH, poster. Poster. Okay. And setting aside the fact that I think it's a good look for a governor to do that, but okay, whatever. The libs are eating this up. That's what they want. They want a guy to say, oh yeah, okay, of course I do. And now let's do. But I still maintain that if Trump continues pushing forward and there's no indication that there's any slowing down, rumors, whatever they were, of amnesty for farm workers, that's gone out the window. Remember, we had the ag secretary come out and say, no, we're not doing any of that. We're not doing any of that. We're not giving amnesty to farm workers. So that's been killed. So if this continues forward, what will California look like? Remember, from beginning of the week, from Monday, I think it was Friday, even before, people started posting maps, Google Maps that have the traffic. We all know, everybody knows the traffic map. You look at it, it's green, it's red, it's yellow, and various shades. And the darker red it gets, the worse off you are. And if you've ever lived in Southern California, if you want to get anywhere across town, it's going to be an hour plus. And all of a sudden, everything was green. It was green during rush hour. It was green Friday afternoon. It was green Monday morning. And, well, you remove just a few, dare I say, bad, can I say that? Bad drivers. You remove a few bad drivers. You remove a few, 3-4% of the drivers that have no skin in the game. 3-4% of the drivers that have a driver's license but don't really care if they kill somebody because they'll just go on bond and go back to El Salvador. It happens all the time. Don't look at me like that. Robbie, what do you mean? This happens all the time. 1,000%. You can't say that doesn't happen. Of course it does. It's different when I go out there, you go out there, and you drive on the road. We have no place. This is our community. We have to act civilized. And by the way, we get in all sorts of trouble if we get caught. You see how it works in California. You see the kind of permissiveness that the government has toward illegals. So now you deport a few of them, you freak out the rest of them so that they're basically not on the roads for fear of running into ICE immigration enforcement. And the roads are clear. I don't know. I could imagine a handful of squishy libs in the middle kind of, oh, I don't know about the Trump, but I'm really enjoying this. And wait for crime to come down. Wait for burglaries to decrease. Wait for all this to happen. Now, I don't know. I don't have the crystal ball here, folks. It could very well turn out that Gavin Newsom, being the perverse sociopath that he is, will find a way to take credit for the Trump successes in California. That's a possibility. And I wouldn't put it past him. I know this guy like the back of my hand, and he is not known for his moral scruples, if you catch my drift. But fundamentally, you start redistricting congressional district, you start taking away bodies that are counted in the census. You start doing this en masse. You are changing the political landscape, and now estimates show that Republicans could gain up to 30 seats in Congress just by Trump enforcing immigration. That's a wild thought. And it takes me back to Florida, how just a few small changes can make all the difference electorally. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Be back after the top of the hour. Another hour of the What's Right show up next. Hi, folks. Welcome to the What's Right show. I, Sam Mirejovsky, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, periodically will mention that I am always right and rarely wrong. Now, when it comes to the Democrats, folks, these people are almost always wrong and rarely right. And increasingly so, the further along we get, the further they slip into radical leftism. Now, this morning, Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, the bank, he's been known in the past as a bit of a Trump critic, but a common sense, straight kind of shooting CEO type. Well, he's one of the people that has led the charge for having people return back into the office. He is not a work from home guy. So J.P. Morgan, and I got to pull it out here. I had it on my phone. Let me just tell you. Here's the actual quote from J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon. Quote, "I have a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they are idiots. I always say they have big hearts and little brains. They do not understand how the real world works." Well, by the way, I think I probably would suppose, based on some of his past statements, that Dimon himself is a registered Democrat. And incidentally, he has at times been floated as a presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, someone of the likes of George Shultz. Who is the CEO, Robbie, of Starbucks? Yeah, I want to make sure I got Howard Schultz, of course. Excuse me, Howard Schultz. Yes, he's the former CEO of Starbucks, and of course the founder of the expansion chain. So, he's another person who's been touted as a possibility for a more mainstream, balanced, centrist Democrat candidate. Both men, of course, have poo-pooed the idea. But anyway, so I bring this up because, of course, I haven't been talking about it as much, but today's Friday, and I have to bring it up because it's unbelievable to me that the Islamist communist in New York, the guy running for mayor, Mamdani, is leading in the polls. I think he's going to win this. Remember how many people out there said, no, it's just, we'll just wait for it. It's going to get through. I mean, a bunch of ugly stuff is coming up about him. We have revelations by the day. In fact, even the Washington Examiner did a piece And they said that Mamdani's grocery store plans are based on an accounting error. Okay, this is the plan, of course, is that he would open city-run, government-owned grocery stores, just like the Soviet Union, just like Cuba, just like communist Czechoslovakia, the country that my parents fled in 1968. The claim, this is from the Washington Examiner, is based on a basic misunderstanding of the city's current grocery subsidies. The money he plans to use to pay for his city-owned grocery stores is the money that the city doesn't have. But hey, why are we getting caught up in the details? These don't matter. None of this matters. It's fine. Remember we had the the fire chief over there in Austin, Texas, who refused to send his firefighters, deploy them to the areas affected by the flooding before, flooding was likely to happen. They knew in advance, a couple days in advance, and the fire chief there, who was a DEI hire, didn't understand how reimbursements work and was worried that they wouldn't be able to get the hours of the firefighters paid for. And people called him and said, no, you're going to get reimbursed for it. And he's like, what does that mean? Well, it's the same thing. The people are bona fide morons. They don't understand how anything works. And so I know if I'm a Democrat, I got an idea. I got people here who don't know how this works, and we're going to put them in charge. We will hand them America's biggest and most important city. We're just going to give it to Zohran the moron, Mamdani, and let him have his way with it. Now, it would be funny if it wasn't so completely tragic. Now, in other news, of course, now people are finally looking at his upbringing. I mentioned this in the first stages there as we were nearing the election day, the primary election in New York. I talked about how his dad is a prominent professor. His mom is, in Hollywood, and has both of them very successful people, immigrants to the country. Grew up on the Upper West Side in New York in a fashionable apartment. He's just this upper class guy. And so the Boston Globe ran a piece where they what did they say? They called him a Nepo baby. Nepo baby, all right? And they said, look, that Zohran Mamdani embodies the left's luxury beliefs. Now, luxury beliefs are ideas or opinions that upper class people have. They adopt them to signal their status and belonging. And then, of course, without bearing any consequences for those beliefs, which, of course, then go on to disproportionately affect the poor. I'll give you an example of it here in Las Vegas, if I may. I periodically attend little dinners and things and social gatherings in very fashionable homes across the city. And when I say across the city, I really mean on the west side of town. And when I say the west side of town, I really mean Summerlin. And when I say Summerlin, I really mean up in the Ridges or, those kind of neighborhoods, Summit, etc. And I'll be sitting there, and there'll be rich people around the table. I'm just being candid here with you. And they will tell me something like, oh, I can't believe Trump and this immigration. And this is just terrible. We have to be sympathetic to people. And I'm going, you live behind two gates. Some of these neighborhoods, double gated. Some of these people have their own private security that, sit outside the house. You have security. And you're telling, poor people that live in our city, lower income families, that they have to go live in the hood and their kids have to walk to school with criminal illegal aliens roaming the street because you think that it is compassionate. Well, read fashionable. It's fashionable. It's nice to say, I have compassion. They're not bearing the consequences. None of the people that I encounter, I'm probably being too forward here, and some of them might be listening and get offended. If I don't get invited to another one of those insufferable parties, I'm better for it. But anyway, the point being is it's real. This happens. The people that have common sense often are the ones on the front lines. Remember, I went through his support for this guy. The lower income people in New York aren't interested in him. They want Andrew Cuomo, who is a more mainstream Democrat, although I have obviously huge problems with him, and Eric Adams, more mainstream Democrat, someone who has aligned himself with Trump on the subject of immigration, also getting popular support among lower income New Yorkers. It's the people that make more than, X $100,000 a year are people that are supporting him because they won't feel the pain of this. So the article, the Boston Globe piece is really great. It's an opinion piece by Karine Hajar, who's on the Globe staff. And it was, it's good. This is what she wrote. I ride the New York subway multiple times a week. In the past year, I've had a homeless man on the subway tell me he wanted to rape me in the middle of the day. I've been spit on. I've seen genitalia and public masturbation. I've endured threatening catcalls. I dress carefully. I always have pepper spray. And more often than before, I'm forced to ignore the price and just call the damn Uber. She goes on to say that is just the fact of life for New Yorkers. And what would be, since this is the problem, and we know it's the problem, and a lot of us have seen the videos of how bad the subways are, what do you think would be the answer to this? Because, I would think common sense is if you've got a bunch of criminal activity on the subways, you need maximum police enforcement. You need to go in there, crack heads, bring people in, arrest them, try them, convict them, and put them away. Just put them away. If they are threatening rape, if they are showing their genitals, if they are pissing on people literally in the subway, those people do not belong in polite society. Call me crazy, but no, that's just what common sense would tell us. But for Mamdani and his merry band of democratic socialists, they actually want less prison time. They want to do away with cash bail. They want to expand existing what they call decarceral legislation. It's terrible. And it will only cause further problem for the poorest, most vulnerable of New Yorkers. And this ideology could spread here to Nevada. It can spread anywhere. We have to be very mindful of this. I have to take a quick break. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Greetings and welcome back. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. You're listening to the What's Right Show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Friends, okay, I have to say this, it was obviously distressing that socialism is making a comeback in the U.S. At the same time, perplexingly, it might seem as a contradiction that Trump remains popular and overall his approval ratings remain high. Obviously, democratic socialism is not taking root everywhere, but in liberal pockets of the country, it is gaining popularity. Now, I start to think about this. I look at the policies of Zohran Kwame Mamdani, the ending of cash bail, legalizing all sorts of stuff, restricting solitary confinement, giving the right to vote to incarcerated people, decriminalizing simple drug possession, basically doing all the stuff that has proven to be disastrous for cities like New York and San Francisco, where crime has spiraled. And consequently, there has been a flight of business and residents out of city centers. So I'm thinking about this and I'm going, well, all right, how does this play out, right? It takes me to an important thought, which is the Democratic primaries. If you have Democratic primaries where it's the radicals, the party faithful, that vote, and the radicals demand people like Kwame Mamdani and not people like Andrew Cuomo, not people like Eric Adams, then you have to start to think that it's going to be a tricky business for a guy like, let's say, Gavin Newsom to make his play for 2028. Now, Newsom, maybe in the back of Newsom's head, he's got this all stitched up because, of course, Newsom has a very close working relationship with the DNC, and we understand that the DNC behind the scenes is going to be pulling the strings, and is going to put their thumb on the scale the way that they did with both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. But, and hear me out, but it gets tricky where if the grassroots of the Democratic Party demand an activist, demand a radical, demand somebody who has big new ideas, never mind that they're just reheated socialist fantasies, but anyway, new bold ideas, a la this Zohran guy, a la AOC, a la the Squad, okay? Then Gavin Newsom has a tricky dance to perform. On one hand, he can't go full socialist in the primary and then radically pivot to center or center left in order to then be a viable candidate in the general election. Can't do that. But if he's not the people's choice in the Democratic primary, a lot of Democrats are going to sit it out the way they did in 2016. And I think the way that they ultimately did in 2024. I mean, think about this. Let's say, I always try to look at the bright side of things. Let's say this Kwame Mamdani guy, now he can't run for president, let me be clear, but let's say he kicks off this for the Democrats as thinking it's a proof of concept that being an unapologetic socialist wins elections. He's winning an election in New York where, what is it? I think Republicans are outnumbered 5-1 by Democrats. Okay. So he's going to get some large portion, the vote is split, number of candidates, multiple candidates running. So he'll get some, he may win the election. And the Democrats will take it. See, look, if we run as a socialist, if we run as radical as we want, actually it's good because that's what the voters want. And they will get this idea that that's going to work on the national level. New York is not America. It used to be. It used to be in some way, some key critical ways. It no longer is. New York is a cesspool of morons, okay? So obviously there's many, many great people there, but, by and large, it's a city ruled by idiots. And so, it's not going to work on the national level. And so a guy like Newsom will have to contend with competition during the primary from a Bernie Sanders-like populist socialist candidate. It's not going to be Bernie. Could it be AOC? Could it be somebody like that? Sure. Now, I think, Gavin Newsom, based on how the DNC operates, is going to win. But when he wins, the people that there will be, just like they did with Bernie, by the way, just like a lot of Democrats were PO'd when the party turned their backs, well, not just turned, but literally actively worked against RFK Jr., that there will be people who are disaffected by this. The Democrats have a tough road. I mean, we do too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's going to be a big absence to not have Trump on the scene. There's nobody that has been anywhere close to Trump's political talents in the Republican Party with his instincts, pretty much since Reagan. So everybody else, I mean, this will be big shoes to fill. And, does J.D. Vance carry the day? Is it Marco Rubio's? Whatever. I don't know. I can't answer that question. Too far ahead, and the next 3 years is a enormous eternity, politically speaking. But I wouldn't trade places with the Democrats for all the cannabis in Camarillo, because I got to tell you, I have to say that Newsom, Newsom's going to have a push from the left, and this is forcing him to be this activist right now and this anti-Trump foil. But as Trump's policies prove to be popular, and as the economy will improve, I strongly believe this, and as we demonstrate that we had way too many illegal immigrants here, as we show that we can start to save money on Medicare, Medicaid, social services, etc., that we're giving away all this federal money and just gobs of cash to illegal immigrants, and we see that we improve the lifestyle of ordinary Americans. I don't know if it's going to be politically beneficial for Newsom to have spent all this time, invested all this energy to catering to the fringe of his party that he's still not going to win over anyway. That's the point. Well, they're still fighting on the Medicaid thing. They're still fighting it. They literally want to give freebies to illegals just so they stay, just so they come here, just so they remain beholden to the Democratic Party. Wow, there was I got the receipts here when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Hi, welcome back. The What's Right Show is your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. here on News Talk 840 KXNT. So speaking of the Medicaid for illegals, this remains a contention among Democrats that this is just beyond the pale that Republicans would dare remove this, that this is heartless, ... There's a fight over math from the CBO. Now, the CBO is the Congressional Budget Office. They're the people. This is the authority on doing the math on whatever particular cost implication there is to legislation. And there was a great exchange between Representative Richie Torres, he's a Democrat from New York, and the one and only Scott Jennings. This was on CNN last night. Behold this.
Political analysis is wrong. I don't think it's unpopular at all to try to reform an entitlement program, to save it for the people who need it, to keep illegal aliens from getting welfare benefits they shouldn't be getting, to encourage people to go to work. I don't think these things should be shied away from by Republicans.
None of that is true. First of all, I think Medicaid
It's exactly true. It's exactly what's in the bill.
Federal law prohibits undocumented immigrants
then why are
from
$1.4
receiving Medicaid
million
benefits.
on it? Why are
That's a figment of your imagination.
It's a figment of the CBO's documents.
Let me explain the facts.
It's in the CBO documents.
I'll explain the facts.
Is it or not?
Let me explain. It's not, actually.
No, you are lying.
No, that is not. It is not true.
Okay, hang on a
You're
second.
inventing facts out of thin air.
All right.
So Medicaid is.
Hold on, guys.
Medicaid.
State program.
Medicaid.
Hold on.
Medicaid is the most popular program after Social Security and Medicare. So $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, which is what Republicans just did, is not only bad morals and bad economics, it's bad politics. Medicaid is actually more popular than you, Scott Jennings. It has 70% approval rating among Republicans.
How do you know what my approval
More than
rating is?
80% among independents, more than 90% among Democrats. It's political suicide for Republicans
I think
to
it's
get
political
Medicaid.
suicide to come on as a member of Congress and lie about what the CBO says.
So the majority of
1.4 million
people,
illegals are on it.
who benefit from Medicaid are senior citizens and those with disabilities. Almost
Yeah,
all
I don't disagree
Medicaid
with
funding goes toward the elderly, the disabled, children, and working adults.
That's who it's for.
And that's
it's not for
and those
illegals.
are the people for
It's
whom
not
it
for
principally
illegals.
benefits.
Scott, just to disentangle this here, the federal law prohibits undocumented people from getting Medicaid. That is the law.
But they're on it.
Okay, not the federally funded part of Medicaid. States have
Okay.
their own funding mechanisms, and some of them have chosen to expand it to include everyone. There's a difference here. Now, you don't like to acknowledge the difference, but that difference does exist. So, okay.
No.
This Abby Phillips is absolutely wrong. We have federal tax dollars that are not somehow magically segregated when they are reimbursing Medicaid expenses in California to only apply to Californians who are citizens of the United States or lawful residents. That's bullcrap. And may I add another thing? Let's just suppose for a minute that Abby Phillips and Congressman Torres were right about this, that they were correct in what they were saying. That whatever dollars are, there's no contention, right, that California gives free health care to illegals. Yes or no? No contention. Okay. There's also no contention that federal money from Washington goes to California to help pay for free health care in California via Medi-Cal. Yes or no? Again, true statement. What they are arguing about is they're saying there's somehow this money is segregated. My point is, even if that were true, I mean, we all know how a budget works, right? It doesn't matter, if the federal government is coming and plugging a hole in the California budget, if some of that hole, some of that red on the balance sheet was caused by them giving whatever money in whatever form to illegal immigrants, aren't we, you and I, as non-residents of California, as Nevadans or wherever we live, aren't we subsidizing illegal immigrants via our federal tax dollars in California? And the answer is obviously yes. Because money is money. And if California didn't waste money on illegals in all these different things through education and healthcare, et cetera, they would need fewer federal dollars to make up the difference in their budget. Now, that's all a fact. And they can't get themselves through this. They can't come to admit any of this. By the way, I saw another great thing. I saw Stacey Abrams, who herself is an expert in election manipulation, and she was on Jimmy Kimmel Live on ABC. They started talking about the immigration raids. Jimmy Kimmel, of course, has devolved into a complete freakazoid. And here, Ms. Gaptooth Abrams is talking about what this is going to do for elections. Now, pay attention to how she phrases this.
You send the U.S. Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal, because that's how you quiet dissent, because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections, because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
All I heard in all of this, and I mind you, I'm a little distracted by Ms. Abrams' appearance, I have to admit. The only thing that I heard in all of this is I heard her talking a lot of words about immigration enforcement and how it's going to be bad for elections. Now, if a very major Democratic operative, someone who is known for engineering races, the allegations are extensive about her efforts down in Georgia and elsewhere. When you hear her talking about her fear of this stopping elections, a lot of Republicans are focusing, a lot of conservatives are hearing this going, oh my gosh, she's crazy. Does she actually think that Trump is not going to hold elections and he's just going to say, oh, we're sending in the Marines and no elections? No. What she is saying, she's not saying this, but what she's thinking is we're losing our, we're losing our people that we were relying on to send funny ballots. They didn't vote, but they were people. They lived in an address, 20 of them to an address. We sent them all mail-in ballots. Those ballots all came back, checked Joe Biden, 2020, 2024. Many of those ballots never came checked with any other down ballot votes. Giant motor voter operation using people who probably weren't qualified to vote, entitled to vote legally. And they know that the jig is up. And they're panicking about this. They really are. At the very same time, the Democratic Party is also moving full socialist, which is not going to be popular. And I talked about that a minute ago. And then the Democratic Party also has the problem that they're not just socialists, but they're also getting into bed with the Islamists. And this to me is this is where I grab my forehead and I think this is where I start to worry for the country because, once upon a time, it was pretty much agreed, whether you were a Republican or a Democrat, that, the Holocaust happened, okay? And that Israel and the Middle East were the quote-unquote good guys. Of course, I understand. I get the nuance. I understand that Israel occasionally I get that. But, I don't know. I mean, where would I want to vacation? I would rather vacation in Israel than Syria. Thank you very much. Just putting that out there. So, now the Democrats, and I think they're starting to freak out about this. They realize that they're just going too far out there and desperate to reclaim some kind of center ground. Here's DNC Chair Ken Martin talking about how Democrats are actually a big tent party, which none of the evidence right now suggests is the case.
What about concerns from some of your Jewish colleagues in particular about him not outright condemning the phrase globalize the intifada in a recent interview? Some of your Jewish colleagues have said that could be very disturbing, potentially dangerous. Do you agree with that?
There's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe, as a Democratic Party chair in Minnesota for the last 14 years, and now the chair of the DNC, that you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition. We have conservative Democrats, we have centrist Democrats, we have labor progressives like me, and we have this new brand of Democrat, which is the leftists. And we win by bringing people into that coalition. And at the end of the day, for me, that's the type of party we're going to lead. We are a big tent party. Yes, it leads to dissent and debate, and there's differences of opinions on a whole host of issues. But we should celebrate that as a party and recognize at the end of the day, we're better because of it.
The Democratic Party is a party of anti-Semitism. The Democratic Party is a party of child labor on cannabis farms. The Democratic Party is the party that supports radical Islam. The Democratic Party is the party that wants to do away literally with capitalism. I mean, do I continue? How is that big tent? And it's just been getting worse. This didn't just creep up all of a sudden. The people that were in charge of our country over the last 4 years, who were running the auto pen behind the scenes and puppeteering Joe Biden there in the Oval Office, propping him up a la Weekend at Bernie's, were much more aligned with the Zohran Mamdanis than they were with the Bill Clintons of the world. And that has to be said, right? It's one of the reasons why Kamala Harris lost the race when she declared that there was no daylight between, Biden's policies and what she would do in office. That's the moment, I think, that she lost the race. Biden's policies, whoever was running the White House, was deeply unpopular. By the way, you see that Biden's doctor was hauled in for some questioning under oath, a deposition, Capitol Hill. It did not go great, and I will I'll play that for you when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right Show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. I had a funny thing happen to me, Robbie, yesterday. I got to share this. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. So I'm at my hotel here in Prague in the Czech Republic, and I got recognized. I don't plug it all the time. I have an Instagram account. I just, over the years, have shared pictures of the kids and me and travels and that kind of thing, food, just, more less political and more sort of my life. You can find me on Instagram at What's Right Sam, just like the X account at What's Right Sam. So here on the What's Right show, okay, I put all the political stuff mostly on Twitter, some of it on Instagram, but not that much. Anyway, somebody here in the Czech Republic in Prague recognized me for my Instagram account. This lady, this female lawyer, apparently follows me and has for a long period of time. And so she kind of came up to me excited. I can't believe I'm meeting you, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, I want you to meet my husband. So I go over there and to the table, and her husband's there, who is a Canadian guy. And she says to him, now, you know, on my way over, she goes, by the way, I know you're a Trump supporter. I know you're a Trump, but be careful. My husband is really, he really does not like Trump. I just have to warn you. So I, being the colossal jerk that I am, I walk up to this Canadian guy. And I said, "Oh yeah, your wife was just telling me that you're the president of Canadians for Trump." And he was sitting down. He almost had like an anaphylactic shock. I thought his body seized. He goes, "Oh, no, anything but that. Oh my gosh, that guy, can you believe Trump? Oh my gosh." I go, "Oh, I love him." I mean, folks, I don't change who I am regardless of the situation. So I was ready to, to blow this, but what do I care? I'm going to tell you. So it goes, there's another lady there, and I'm going to be, can I just say this? The liberal women, they all have a certain look to them. They look miserable. It's not that they're ugly, and this woman was ugly, but it's not just that they're ugly. They're miserable. They just look like, just all tightly wound. So she goes, "Well, you can't, did you vote for him?" And I said, "Yeah." "Well, would you vote for him again?" And I said, "Lady, I would vote for him 8 more times if I could." And it ended there. She's like, "Well, did you vote for him in this last election? I mean, you already knew how bad he was." I go, what are you talking about? I voted for him 3 times. And like I said, I'd vote for him 3 more times or more if I could. Anyway, so they gave us a good restaurant recommendation. We were in the mood for some pizza. And so she gave us a good rec. And we're on our way there. My daughter goes, "Are you really going to take a food recommendation from a Trump hater, Dad?" And I said, "Well, I get a feeling they know where to eat. I can't be wrong about everything," is my point. All right. Sorry for the digression. Anyway, I got to share this with you. So Biden, look, the Biden specter, right? The ghost of Christmas past is not going to just go away for the Democrats. I mean, Biden could drop dead tomorrow, and it's still going to be a problem for them that he was clearly not competent while he was president. It's a story. It's not just a story. There was some criminal behavior that has occurred behind the scenes. I'm confident of this. And I believe it's being investigated. I believe it's being looked at. And I think that, anyway, here's what happened. Biden's doctor, who was one of the people who certified that Biden was absolutely hunky-dory and completely fine. His name is, his name is O'Connor, okay? He got deposed. So he sits down with his lawyer, and he gets deposed, and well, let me play this for you. He would not answer a single question and cited, doctor, patient privilege, but also confidentiality, but also the Fifth Amendment. And this is, of course, the right for you to not testify and incriminate yourself. Listen to how this went down.
Dr. O'Connor, before we begin, I would like to go over the ground rules for this deposition. The committee will conduct today's deposition in accordance with the House of Representatives regulations for the use of deposition authority, which were furnished to your council. This regulation is incorporated into the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform at Rule 15, which was also furnished to your council. The questioning will proceed in rounds. The majority will ask questions for an hour, and then the minority will have an opportunity to ask questions for an hour if they choose. There will be one staff counsel per side asking the questions during each round. To the extent members have questions for the witness, they will be propounded during their side's respective rounds. Do you understand?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, and I must follow my lawyer's advice in this matter.
So, gentlemen, we intend to assert both privileges with regard to any questions that would be asked at this deposition. And Dr. O'Connor will not answer any questions.
Okay, there it is. Nothing to see here, folks, at all. Now, I want to tell you something. Not every question that they would have asked him would have required him to violate the doctor privilege, doctor-patient privilege. They could have asked him about his training, how he came to the job, who he spoke to in the White House, who he had dealings with. They could have asked him a lot of questions that didn't fall under that. However, those answers may well have incriminated him. This is not how it goes, by the way, right? I mean, done a few more depositions than most, okay? You can't just sit there at the beginning. If I'm defending a deposition and I've got a client sitting next to me, I can't just tell him, don't answer anything. He can answer his name. He can give responses. This is obstruction of justice is what this is. This attorney could get into trouble for this, right? That's advising him. So things are clearly not good with all the people that were behind the scenes in the Biden administration, making it look as though Joe Biden was fully in charge of the country when anything but that was true. So expect more on this, folks. I think I'd be very surprised if the Department of Justice was not looking into this as well. I got to run. Let's have a great weekend. I'll be back in the country, God willing, on Monday, and we'll see you then. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT.